to another conversation with One Life Club. Today we are here with an absolute legend and rock star that many of you might recognize. We're here with Diane Khoury, who has absolutely, transformed the event space here in Australia, particularly with weddings, and really put us on the map. So welcome, Diane. Thank you so much for joining us at One Life Club.
Thank you for having me.
It's incredible to have you here. We've been looking forward to this for a little while.
Thank you. Well, we would have put on a party for you.
Next time.
Next time, we'll plan it for you.
We've got some very exciting One Life Club events coming up next year. So you're going to be our go-to for all of the exciting stuff.
Exciting, get ready.
We've been looking forward to meeting with you and hearing your journey. So for everyone who's listening, I'd love if you could just share a little bit about how you got started. And your name is associated with some of the biggest events and weddings that we see in Australia. Love to hear about your journey getting to where you are now.
Excellent. Well, Diane Khoury, I think when you say revolutionise the event industry, I don't take that lightly. I was a girl that started 12 years ago, never really set out to be an event planner. I didn't have like a business plan. I was in finance, I studied, I was working for a corporate firm. But something that I was really, really good at was I love being a creative. I love styling. I missed the interaction with people. And when I got married, that process of trying to plan an event, I've realised, and this is when social media was in its infancy. There was no one was really using Instagram. There was nothing online. You bought a magazine to find out how to plan an event. And I struggled trying to plan my event. I struggled trying to source suppliers. I struggled with trying to make decisions. There was too much information. It was like, how do I make that decision? So when I went through that process, I enjoyed doing it, but I realised there was a lack of people that could help. Planners, having an event planner wasn't a thing in Australia. So I planned my wedding. I really enjoyed working with suppliers. I really enjoyed that whole process. And I was the first one in my group of people to get married. And when I had my big fat Lebanese wedding, it was one of those weddings that, people spoke about, and really a lot of younger girls came to me and said, how did you do this? How did you do that? How did you choose this? And I offered advice without thinking of a business model. There was no intention to be a planner. And I helped a few people out for nothing, just helped them. And then soon after that, from helping one girl to another girl, I started to realise a lot of people were gravitating to me. We connected. That's the word. I connected with people on an authentic level. And I say that now because at the time I didn't think I was doing anything besides being myself. And then from there, from helping one person to another person with their event while I was in a corporate, six-figure role in my 20s, had a whole career lined up for me. I was doing this on the side. I soon realised after a few time, there is a market for this. There is a gap in there and people need someone. I was finding that people were gravitating, people getting in contact with me. And from there, I just started to do it as a little side hustle. And before you know it, I was like, I could do something with this. But it was about, in those early days where you're on your own, you've got this cushion job that's offering you, as a woman, it's got maternity leave, it's got all these incentives. And it's like, I've got this and I've got this job lined up and a career map. And then I've got this little side hustle that no one at the time really took an event planner serious. It's like, well, you're doing this, okay, there's no money in it. And as if you'd leave a corporate job and do this. So for probably 2 years of my corporate job, I did it on the side and helped people. Probably didn't charge enough. I wasn't confident enough to say I was worth a certain amount. I didn't have an event degree. And then eventually there was a point in my life where I was like, I need to go all in or nothing. I can't remain in my job and give that 100% and give this 100% because I could see that the demand was there. So I had to make that decision to leave a promising career that was all lined up to me and give something a go. And I took that risk and here we are, never looked back. I still remember at the time, being young and my development manager in the firm I was in was like, really, you're going to leave here to do that and go take a career break, get it out of your system. and we'll see you back in a year. And I think that was my motivation. It was like, no, I'm not going to see you back in a year. I'm going to keep going and I'm going to make something of this. And I did, and I worked my ass off. I worked my butt off. And, you know, to get to this level and to change the game, to be a game changer in the industry, that takes guts, that takes risk-taking, that takes removing yourself from the cushion, from being comfortable and backing yourself up, like putting all your eggs in one basket and I'm going to go all in. And that's what I did. And it's been a long journey.
So I'm not sure if this is going to get captured in its entirety on film. And I don't know if everyone who's watching this is going to feel everything I'm feeling in this room, but this woman is an absolute force. And just sitting here, like, I can feel your energy, like you're just not willing to fail. Like, you know where you're going and you're going to go and go and go until you get there.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, and even if I think about my own journey, you know, that desire, the relentlessness to just achieve your goal is something that, you know, makes you a little bit different. And I can see that that's just like so the case with you. What was there like an experience in your life? Maybe it was like when you were younger or kind of as you were growing up that gave you this like desire to always want to achieve your goal or always succeed or prove people wrong or whatever it might be. Like, where does that fire really come from you? Because it's like, I can just tell talking, you know, you talking for the last 5 minutes, it's such a big part of, you know, this force that you have.
I've always been hard on myself. I've always been someone that doesn't look left and right and worry about what I put my own goals. I think that's a big thing. Like, it's important to know what's around, but at the same time, the force comes from being driven, from being young, came from a background where my parents couldn't provide. They did their best. I had to work as soon as I was 13 and I think at the time 14 and 8 months. I wanted to save up for a car. I wanted to be able to buy nice things. I wanted to do things and I couldn't rely on my parents. So I was like, you know what, I can sit here and whine about it. I can sit here and say why my parents couldn't do this and couldn't do that, or I can go and work. And I think, and interact with people and understand what's out there. And I think from a young age, I was always someone that was hungry to work, hungry to try things out, and not afraid to make mistakes. I think that's the biggest thing is not afraid to fall over and feel intimidated by what's around. And I've always had that fire to always do better for myself. For me, I set my own standards and it's about looking within and doing what will make me happy. And I think I put really strong goals on myself. And I think the biggest thing in growing from a young girl to where I am now is setting targets for myself and wanting to say that I was able to do this and not ask anyone else for help, you know. I think that's a huge achievement growing up when I had no choice. I couldn't go and ask my parents for things that my friends had. I had to work hard for that. And that's where the fire comes from. You know, it's very easy to take the quick road. And I think I was just always like, no, I'm going to work hard. And little things along the way where you're getting told like I think that manager telling me, you know, we'll see you back in a year, almost like it was being a plan and event person. It was like, really? It wasn't taken seriously. It was like, what's that? Like being a creative sometimes isn't taken seriously. Being in the service industry isn't taken seriously. So I think I wanted to prove, no, I'm going to do something. You might not see it in the market. And sometimes it's not seeing something, but being able to believe in yourself and give it a go. And I think I wanted to prove that. And then along the way, when I took that leap of faith, certain, you know, coming into the events industry and people kind of going, oh, but you have no experience and who are you? And you don't have it's always being told, it's always the things around you, the forces around you that are trying to cut you down, bring you down, tell you that you're not good enough. And I think sometimes you have to shut out the noise. And I was really good at shutting out the noise. At times it gets to you, but you just got to, you know, I think it's just that upbringing of, you know, always wanting to show my parents, my family, culturally, where I come from a Lebanese background, we're all about family, about connecting, about emotions, about celebrating each other. And that's why I'm in the event industry, because I love making people happy. I love seeing people, I love that being behind the scenes and seeing that I'm able to give someone, being part of someone's journey and knowing that, you know what, whatever that celebration is, we made that happen and they chose us. And I don't take that lightly. And I think that's my passion.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's also so inspiring to meet a businesswoman who not only is a formidable businesswoman, but also someone who is so exceptional at creative and having like a creative vision. And I've been following your page for a long time. And one of the things that I just love is every time I see content on your Instagram, I'm like, it's astonished by what I see. Like, it's amazing, but everything looks so different. Like, each event has its own personality and its own kind of emotion that it makes me feel when I see it. And I'm sure for the people who are in it too. And so I guess I'm curious to learn more about how you came, like, where did this creativity come from for you? Because finance is not creative at all.
No,
and
definitely
what you're doing
very
now,
dry.
Yeah,
I was told
creative.
in the accounting firm when I was as an analyst, when I'd meet people, because I connected well with people, I'd always get told, what are you doing in here? You're such a fun, warm person. I've always, because while I was studying, I worked in retail. I used to dress people. I used to work in retail clothing. I used to merchandise. I used to dress people. I had my own clientele. So I was always a people's person, but I did my corporate role more because my parents wanted me to go to university, tick the box. I wanted to show that I was in a role that, you know, from their end was viewed really well regarded. I think the thing that for me is that when I left the corporate firm, being an analyst, people said, how did you succeed? I was always creative, but being creative is one thing, but you need to have the business mindset. That's what my corporate role gave me, how to put numbers together, how to communicate with people. It's all well and good to have great ideas. It's all well and good to bring up a $3 million wedding that you saw on someone else's page, which clients come to me. It's about being strategic and how to think. And I think that's something that really won clients over, is to go, okay, I'm good at coming up with ideas and I love your ideas of what you want, but hold on, let's talk about money. Let's talk about finance. Let's talk about your buying power as a client, what you're willing to spend on this event, and me going, okay, now your budget doesn't align with the creative that you want or what you want delivered, and how I sift through that. And at the very beginning, put a plan in place to bring the worlds together, because there's so many creative and talented people, much more creative than me in the event industry. And I think the problem is you can be really creative, but if you don't have the business side of things, of how to stack numbers up, how to educate this client on how to spend their money. You know, everyone wants to have a $10 million home, but if they can't afford it, how, and their budget's $3 million, how do you help them find the right home? How do you help them navigate through that? And how do they have the confidence in you as a creative to choose you to take them on that journey? So being creative, I've always had that. I'm good at also, you have to understand, it's not a one-man show. It's collaborating, it's choosing the right people. I have an army behind me. So as a creative, I need to choose suppliers that have the right values, mindset, that are good at what they do. They have the right work ethic. So I'm that leader. I need to choose the right people that are going to deliver the entire job for that client. So it's also choosing people that have the same creative vision or can add value. So working with the right network of people is really important and has helped my journey as well. It's really been about making sure I have the right people behind me.
What's been the biggest unexpected lesson that you've learned on your business journey so far?
There's no one fits all. No size, like you can't, in business, you can't just put a process together and go, this is it, especially in our industry or in my industry where, you know, my whole business model is about delivering a one-off event, understanding people. So for me, it's about listening to everyone's story and making sure that everyone walks away with their own unique touch of DK events, that we understand you. So yes, you need a process, and yes, there needs to be solid foundations in a business, but you have to be willing to adapt. And I think it's a fast-moving industry in any type of business. And if you have that mindset that this is my model and I'm not going to go outside that model, you have to be willing to think outside the box, to adapt to people's personalities, to listen. Listen is a huge one, and along the way make changes, and not along the way like in a year's time, sometimes every few days. Not change your fundamentals, but adapt to the environment, to your client. I don't always get the same person in the door, and I have to be willing to listen and understand and really connect with people. I think that's been my biggest lesson, is to actually listen and then connect and find ways to connect and adapt.
That's so true. And I think that in general, that's one of the things that many businesses, when they're trying to grow, they forget. How have you found that growth journey for you in your business? Because if from an outsider perspective, it feels like, DK Events is doing all of the biggest and, most lavish weddings that I see all over my social media. But I'm sure that behind the scenes, there's so much going on, and it looks like your business is just growing at such an exponential rate. How do you deal with that growth, and what's your vision for how you want to see the business evolve?
Yeah, the growth has been huge, but it didn't start that way. One person at one person at a time, and then the right people start to come through the door. And obviously, when you go back to you do the most lavish weddings or events, and you look like you're growing. That happens that just didn't come in the door. It was really there were strategic things in the background I worked on with branding. I understood that there's so many event planners, there's so many people in the events industry, but I wanted to be doing the high-end events, people that appreciate quality, a very personalized service. To do that, to attract those clients, you need to ensure that you're servicing and attracting those clients. So the output was delivering high-end one-time events. So I think I've worked really hard to ensure that each event is different. I've not become complacent. I just think it's a big one. I always get told you're the best in your industry and you're on top of your game, and that's a hard thing to sustain. I think people don't understand when you are on top of your game, that's harder than being on the bottom and working your way up. It's how do you not become complacent? And to not become complacent is, for me at the moment, we're doing things by collaborating with different brands, bringing in different people who have the same brand alignment, so we can work together to bring something new and be more innovative. Doing events outside of Sydney, Australia, going international, that's been a big thing, and just really going into untapped territory with events.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about one of your favorite events where you feel like you really pushed the boundaries? Like you did something that was just so new and different and unique that, like, I guess really helped you make your mark.
Wow, there's heaps of events I've learned. Sometimes a littlest event I've learned stuff from, but...
Or even your favourite one?
Oh my goodness, there's no favourites, There's no favourites, but there's been events. Look, one that really stood out is when I did an event in Lebanon. So this event was a client, they actually live in Australia. I've done events for them here, and if you know the Middle East, they have the most impeccable events. They could have hired someone from Lebanon. They're known for their most lavish events, but no, they wanted me. And the reason why they wanted me was when we take events on, there is a connection. We become part of the family. We understand. We really get to know our clients. It's not about just that one-time business, one wedding, see you later. It's about being part of their journey for anything that they need to celebrate. That we want to be that first point of contact. So for them, it was like, we want to host an event for the family, but we want to do it abroad because we do so many events here, and it's important that we go back to Lebanon, and we want you, because you understand us, to make it happen. And obviously, I had never done a wedding in Lebanon, and this is another thing where I'm saying taking risks, going into untapped territory. At first, it was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Everything in the beginning, when you get asked to do things outside your comfort zone, you think of every reason why you can't do it, everything why you will fail. I don't know, and so I think for me it was that, hold on, stripping it back, starting, okay, I'm going to do this. They've obviously come to me because I understand them. They could have chosen everyone else, but they've chosen me for a reason. They believe in me, and it's about me believing in myself. So for me, that was such a big turning point, because I really stripped it back and went, okay, I've been to so many, I go and speak at so many conferences overseas. I've engaged with so many other people from different countries, and I've met the most amazing planners. I'm going to speak to someone over in Lebanon, and I'm going to collaborate. I'm going to hire someone to work under with me. And I did, and that's how I worked. I had a ground person on the ground. I worked with a planner there. I collaborated. She knows the country better than me. She knows the rules, but I know my client. So I needed to join forces and go, I'm the point of contact with the client. I understand what I need to deliver. She's on the ground with her team running for me. And it was challenging because it was different times. It was a lot of Zoom calls. And then when I finally went over there, and obviously researching suppliers and taking that risk of working outside of my comfort zone. But I think for me, I love that challenge. I think for me, it was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work there, and I'm going to find a venue, and I'm going to make sure that this is an event that everyone talks about, that my client's going to not regret, because they're paying, 5 times the price to have someone like me bringing me all over there than just bringing someone else. So I don't take those decisions lightly. So I worked my butt off with the team there, communication barriers, but, I did my research. I did a lot of work. And when we finally got there, for me, it stood out because when you work in another country with different rules, again, outside the typical process, there's no emails. Everything was on WhatsApp.
Wow.
Minimal, no one emails. There's the OH&S, the rules are completely different. It was so different, but it was also about learning to work outside of my comfort zone. And I really learned, I feel like that job really made me realize how capable I am and my team to do more. Sometimes we really restrict ourselves. I would have thought never will I do an event in Lebanon or overseas, but that just showed me that when you work hard and collaborate with the right people, take risks, make sure you do your homework as well, really understand your what's around you. That stood out to me, because being on the ground there and seeing it all come together and meeting with suppliers and meeting with amazing people and learning along the way from people and adapting to the environment, that event was exceptional, because I got to learn to work under a different environment and show people, myself first, and everyone, that follows us. Look what DK Events took on in Lebanon. And we hosted the most amazing event that got shared all around the world, our first event. And then that opened up a whole thing of, okay, everyone started saying, can you come international? And that's where we've started to do that and look at, doing events overseas. So for me, that was a big one for me, because it was for me showing that don't set limitations on yourself.
That's so amazing. I think I can imagine, if I put myself into the shoes of someone who might be listening to this, and maybe they have a business and they have a similar, exciting opportunity, maybe not to the same scale, but I think for a lot of people, what holds them back is the fear. So what if it goes wrong? Yeah, what if it fails? What if, I embarrass myself or embarrass my company? What if the customer's not happy? What if we can't do it? How did you get past those what ifs when you were making the decision just to kind of, take the leap and do something in a totally different country?
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head. The what if, there's always that, I'm going to fail. I'm scared to fail. Everyone has that. Everyone, the biggest leaders, the most successful people are successful because they fell over, they failed. But I think it's that what makes someone, what defines you is that strength within. You can't just go, I'm not going to fail. If I fail, I fail. You've got to, for me, what got me over the line is a lot of sleepless nights, anxiety, like how do I work past that anxiety of an untapped area. I really made sure that I did extra work. Like I really worked hard with understanding the market, understanding the people, making sure I did my homework, making sure that I wasn't complacent. With events, you don't have a second chance. You have to be ready by 5 p.m. that day. So I was working in a very unknown environment, so I did a lot of research and a lot of work. But along the way, it's that strong reinforcement to yourself that I can do this. And it's the reminding yourself daily. I think it's so important to remind yourself daily that it's okay to make mistakes. But it's in that moment, how do you recover? How do you step yourself back up? There was things along the way that I learned that I went, you know, I could have easily just went, nah, I'm going to give up. This is all too hard. But it was about finding solutions. It was about working through it. And sometimes finding avenues outside of your business that will help you when you are stressed, when you're in the box. There were moments where I had to walk away along those planning days, those nights where things just felt too tough. There was just challenges along the way saying, you know, from, you know, communications to me saying, no, this can't happen. It was like, no, and I was frustrated and I had to just go, you know what, tonight I'm just going to back off. I need to go to the gym. I need to work out. I need to get my mind out. I'm too in the box and I'll come back to this tomorrow. It's not going away, and rethink and start again and not take my eye off the goal and the ball and really stay focused. And I think just really the biggest thing I can say to anyone is don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to lose. It's okay to lose. It's what defines you is how you pick yourself back up and really make that mark. You become a better person and you actually realize your own powers.
What do you think it is about losing that makes people so scared?
It's the intimidation. It's what everyone, I still, you know, even 12 years on, I still get nervous at times. The nerves, you learn over time how to deal with it, but there's still that point of, I think that's what makes us not complacent. If you lose the nerves and the passion and the afraid to lose, then I think then you might lose the will to keep moving on. So I think it's losing for me, and I think for most people, is just worrying about what everyone will think.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you need to shut that out. And I think that people think that you only have one chance, that if you lose, that's it. You got to throw in the towel. But no, losing is okay. But I think you need to shut out and stop worrying about everyone else and understand that everyone else has lost. And that someone has to win and someone has to lose. And when you know, I've been teaching my children at the moment because I've got like a 10 and 6-year-old and they're playing basketball and soccer and team sports. And they're really struggling with the loss. They're really struggling with, but I didn't get a goal, I didn't play well. And I've had to teach them about their place in a team and that, Mum, it's okay. Someone has to win and someone has to lose. But what do you do after you lose? Someone has to take the win. But after you lose, you've got to work hard. You've got to go to training that next week, train more so that maybe you can win the next time. And I really think that's just a simple way of how people need to understand business. If you lose, you just got to go work harder to win. You just got to go and try more. You got to be better and you got to find out why did you lose and not just give up. You got to look within yourself and find out why you lost and work on those weaknesses and be better. And I think that's a huge thing. And we do that with every event. Now, every event, the most flawless event that people say, oh my God, you are amazing. How can you even do better? We do better because we look at what we did and how we can do better. What were our weaknesses and how we can better that. And that's really important that you do that in business.
Lots of people think, I feel like, you know, they think you wake up and you start your business today and tomorrow you'll wake up and it will be a huge success that everyone will be talking about and you'll be the best in your business and you'll be making millions of dollars and that's like, you know, it's an overnight success. But for you, what role do you think, you know, this like hard work and consistency and really like showing up every single day and putting in the hours and putting in the grind has played in your success? Like, how did you get your mindset? What's your mindset been around that consistency piece?
Yeah, I think there is that perception that everything just happens overnight. especially with social media. Everyone presents picture perfect moments of themselves, their events, or whatever they do, and everyone just thinks that just happened and it was easy and you're so lucky. I think that you have to be willing to do the hard yards, and you've got to be hungry. You've got to have that hunger within. I don't think anyone can teach you that. I think that's something that you need to have the fire, and you need to go back to your purpose. What is your purpose? Are you doing something that you're passionate about? What I believe worked for me was I was authentic the whole time. I love what I did. I knew my purpose. And I think that shone through, and I was authentic. I didn't try to be someone else. Don't try and be Diane, or don't try and be this person and look at all these business people. You can take learnings from them, but then you need to find your purpose. And if you're doing something that you're not passionate about or you don't believe in, how is someone else going to believe you to take you on and believe in your business? And how will someone say, I want her to be my event planner, if they're not convinced, if they're not feeling the desire from within? So I think that's really important, that you ask yourself first, do you have what it takes? Do you have the right, do you believe in what you're doing? Because if you are, then you will go the distance, and you will be willing to be that fighter, because it's a bit like tug of war. Like 1 minute in, you take 3 steps back, then you've got to learn to take another step in. That's business, and you've got to learn to be willing to accept the good with the bad. But I really go back to, if you are really passionate about your purpose and you really know it is what you want to do, then you're willing to take that journey on.
And it's really, I guess, having that clarity on, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, what you love, what you want to achieve, that really gives you that motivation to be able to keep going.
And that's right. And that's what when I first started, my financial accounting role, my business analyst role, financially, the numbers were there. So if I had to make a decision back there about money and finances, that should have been the road. I had a career path lined up, and then I had this fun thing, creative thing that I like to do. If I looked at it from that point of view, then I should have went for the money, but I didn't look at it like that. I was not happy. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was just showing up to work, doing my hours, leaving, trying to think of every reason why I didn't want to be there. So I couldn't see the future. Whereas then there was no financial figure next to it, but there was just the excitement and the drive of what I could see. I could see it. It was very far away, but I could see that I was excited to get there. And eventually the financial and the dollars came. But it didn't come in the beginning. It came after the hustle. So it's really important that you don't look at other businesses and go, I want to see the money come in that cash register in the first go. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens along that journey. And I just saw it converting into financial, the financial synergy for me, not straight away. After a while, it just happened. I went, oh, okay, yes. And that's when it was like, okay, we are on a winning streak. And that's when all the strategies come in. And that's where the confidence comes in. It's the confidence that is really important along the way.
It's so easy to see that when you care so much about giving someone such an amazing experience, that after they have that experience and they share that experience and you share that experience, other people are gravitating towards you and to your company as well, because that's what you want, right? I think people want to work with other people that they know care.
Of course, yes. And I think that's really hard to translate that online through social media. And I think sometimes one thing I'm really careful about, and I still say to the team, because I've got a team now. Before it was just me. Now I've had to hire people, I've had to rely on people, and I'm not connecting with the client every day. My team is. So it's really important, as your business grows, as you become, rely on other people, that they have the same values that they are, because they're the ones connecting with your people. They're connecting with my clients, that they are also showing that passion. They're showing that care factor. They understand what our brand's all about, how we're connecting with people. That's something that is harder as you have more people on, to ensure that you don't dilute that. And I've had to work on that. I've had to make sure that people still understand Diane cares about her clients, because they're like, oh, she's too big. She doesn't care. It's just a money thing. But we do care. We do care. It's just you have to make business decisions to have people on board, to ensure that people online are seeing wow, they actually care about their clients. And that's why people come back. And we really, for us, it's all about making sure our brand shows that, yes, we do big events. Yes, they're big budget events, but for us, it's not just about that. It's about understanding people's stories and bringing them on as family so that we're not just part of one journey, we're part of every journey. And I think that's a huge thing that we've worked on with our brand, that eventually after a few years, everyone understood the brand. They're like, oh, if you hire Diane, it doesn't matter who it is. It's Diane or her team. They all share the same principles, the same message. So that's something that's been worked on over years to get to that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things in the world is being able to scale an experience. But it sounds like that's truly what your team has been so good at being able to achieve. And each experience is so different, but people leave in awe every single time. So that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one last question for you.
Tell me.
I'd love to hear about what having one life really means to you.
Oh my God, what having one life means to me. When you say having one life, what do you mean by that? Like in what context?
Like you've only got one life and you've got to make the most of it. So what does that actually mean for you? Like how do you make the most of the one life that you have?
Okay. Oh, wow. That's a deep question.
It is a deep question.
It's so deep.
Why ask it last?
Oh my goodness. So what does it mean to me? I think don't sweat the small stuff. I think that's a huge one for me, that you really need to put things into context. Sometimes I look now and I think I can't believe I was literally on the edge at times, on the edge over failing. And I think when you put things in perspective, sometimes you really need to step back and put things and look around and go, you know what? That's how you get better in life. You need to not sweat the small stuff and that you need to give back. It's so important in life that you are a good person and people see through that. Like this is not really business advice, but I think it's really important that along the way in this one life, you give back, because when you give back, you get tenfold in return. I think that's my biggest thing, and not to sweat the small stuff. And to, we're all about creating experiences. We do that because we don't know when your time's up, and we want people to share memories, to share things together and connections together. And I really think it's important that you connect in life with so many different people and don't take that for granted.
I said that was my last question, but I actually have one last question. So I'd love your advice for everyone watching. If they wanted to create a memory for a special occasion for themselves or for their families, do you have any advice on how they can do that? How do you make an experience like that so special? Like what's something simple that you would recommend people do?
It's a good question. It's the little things. It's not about the dollar figure. Sometimes people are, we don't have the budget to have an event by you. But I'm like, no, it's about the experience. So I think it's really, again, going back to knowing, for me, when I speak to someone to create, I want to understand their story. Whether it's a baby shower and they've been trying IVF for 10 years and that's really important to them. How do I make that so heartfelt for that person, or it's wedding, or it's two cultures coming together. So I think it's really important to make it personal. It's the little things, like the little notes. It's the personalized item on the table. It could be something that just think, how can I put a smile on their face? How can I, and I think by personalizing it, by finding a way to the surprise element, whether it's with food, whether it's in a note, whether it's through music, whether it's through a performance, I think whether it's reliving something that meant something for someone. So I feel like sometimes going the distance by not just buying something. It's like I say to my husband, don't just buy me that expensive bag. I want to show effort. I want you to do the little things. So I always go back to personalizing things so that people will never forget that moment. And we always I always say to my team, I always push them. I'm like, think about how we make a guest leave that event, whether it's a wedding, and what is that little thing that they don't forget. And I will always go back to that inexpensive thing that is personalised at that event, that is a takeaway, and they'll never forget that. So for me, it's all those little personal things.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.